Good evening, everybody. How are you today?
Great.
Good. Okay, well, today we're going to call to order the meeting of the Skokie Public Library Board of Trustees of Wednesday, August 13th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m. Are there any comments from observers? Okay, no comments from observers. We're going to go to the next item on the agenda, the approval of the minutes of the regular and closed meetings of July 9th, 2025. Are there any questions or comments for the regular meeting of July 9th, 2025? Any questions or comments for the closed meeting, July 9th, 2025? I think from your silence, we're going to move on. So do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of the regular and closed meetings of July 9th, 2025?
Seconded.
Okay, seconded, thank you. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? None, motion passes for nothing. Next item on the agenda is the Executive Director's Report.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
So I think I won't go into most of my report here. It's pretty self-explanatory, but I just wanted to acknowledge our Reader Services, our advisory service team. They won the Reader's Advisory Service Award from the Illinois Library Association. So it's a big deal. It's like a statewide award, and I think they were recognized for a lot of the great work that they do, and they'll be formally recognized during the ILA conference that's coming up. And so a bunch of us will be there to celebrate. If any board members are interested in attending that day, or for the whole conference, or even for just that day, please let us know and you can join us. But we're really excited, and in the upcoming newsletter, you'll see a little bit of a blurb about them just celebrating with the community. So I just wanted to acknowledge that.
When is the conference?
It's in October
14th through 16th.
14th through 16th. Yeah, that's right.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know Lisa's not here today. I think you all heard why. Good news, but with her help and Rabbi Ari Hart of Skokie Valley, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but Agudath Jacob Synagogue, we were able to spend some time there on a Saturday morning, and it was fantastic. Nancy Kim Phillips, Director of Communication, and Amy Kuster, Director of Public Services, joined me and engaging in a lot of conversation. And Amy even provided a story time.
I was at Tasha Shabbat. I heard great things.
No, you did?
Yeah,
Good.
it's a good.
Oh, good. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah. So this is it's a part of a broader effort by us to just not go to places of worship, but also different community centers where people may be gathering and where they might not all know about the library, or maybe just know all about our services. So we're trying to get out there a little bit more. So it's a concentrated effort to do that. So,
I had a question.
yes, of course.
A lot of my friends in my community like to do block parties.
Yes.
So I brought up that maybe the library bus would come, or someone from the library could come. Is that a thing
Absolutely.
that's possible?
We have done that in the past. Even the bookmobile has gone out to some block parties. So if it fits our schedule, we'll definitely try.
Okay.
But we can definitely at least send some staff, maybe a table or something.
Would they reach out to you? Who would they reach out to?
They can reach out to me directly or through our Tell Us email.
Okay.
The main patron comment email on our website, or they can reach out directly in community engagement.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. Also, I just want to mention our Millennium Time Capsule opening. It's in celebration this Sunday. Amy's been really instrumental in putting that together with our partners at the Skokie Historical Society and the Village of Skokie and the Skokie Park District. So I plan to be there. I have no formal responsibilities at the event, which is great. But I'm going to be there just to see, because I'm so interested in seeing what was in that thing. So, so if you're available on Sunday afternoon, please stop by. It'll be in the Petty Auditorium.
You know the time on it?
1:30 to 3:30.
Okay.
And it will be recorded to go in the next time.
Oh, nice, okay, perfect.
Hopefully they have whatever,
Yeah,
whatever,
yeah, exactly.
whatever platform they would need to play
Yeah.
that
Right.
available at that time.
And just last thing I want to mention is our annual Backlot Bash is happening. And I'm sure all you're familiar with that event. It's a great event, a lot of really fun things happen at that event, including the Rotary Pancake Breakfast. So Laura and I both have tickets, and if you are interested, the library's actually purchased these tickets already, and so we give them to staff who are gonna be attending, and so the trustees are planning to attend. As a library trustee, you know, it's a good opportunity to get out there and meet the community and just talk and network and share information about the library and also listen to people's comments about the library. So Laura and I are usually there, hoping to be there this year, helping out. So it's a fun morning. So I know Mary.
I went
Michelle
last
has
year.
been there,
It was
yeah.
cool. Like we sat there, my husband and I went, and it was funny. Even one of our next door neighbors showed up at the same time. So they sat down at the same table and then they had friends. So it was really great to connect with people we knew, but then also meet other people in the community that we did not know. So it was really fun to interact with exactly like you said, with members of the community.
And the farmer's market is actually that same morning, obviously Sunday morning. Then this year I heard that the farmer's market on that Sunday is going to be on Oakton Street because it's going to be blocked off anyway. So a little bit of it will be in the library parking lot, but most of it will be right in front of the library on Oakton Street. So yeah. Okay, and that's pretty much it. I'm happy to answer any questions or comment on the other items if you would like more information, but
I just wanted to reiterate a congratulations for the Readers Advisory Service Award, and I like to see that it was posted on social media, because that is really great that we are celebrating all the, you know, acknowledgements that are out there for us and the great work that's being done here at the library. So I was happy to see that on social media as well.
great. I didn't even see that on social media, but did have some.
I want to say like within the last week or two.
Yeah,
Okay.
it was right after the press release. was
Okay,
issued.
great. Yeah, that's right. I'm sure we'll do it again too after the luncheon where they'll receive the award. And we'll do something fun in-house where we'll have probably a cake or something for the staff. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? We'll move on. Thank you, Richard. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the July 2025 disbursement report. And that goes from pages 8 through 21. 8 through 21.
Some questions on on just some of the line items. So for under maintenance and building and grounds, there was a line item for GV sprinkler systems. So like what exactly were the repairs or like what exactly was done with that?
I see in my notes that they replaced some clogged nozzles.
Okay.
And they also, there was an issue with, where they installed a new wireless controller. So that, I know that was part of the work, and then I think just resetting the water program with our HVAC company, so.
And then I know in the past I've asked about it, but I just, every time I look, I just see I know it's expensive, the dollar amount that we typically spend on printing.
Yes,
So I'm curious when we go to like, do budgeting, if we plan on like recoding that or, I mean, just trying to keep costs in line. If not, maybe they are acceptable within range, but just wanting to know what our plans are for that.
yeah, absolutely, thank you for mentioning that. We definitely will take a closer look at that this year with rising budget costs, potential rising budget costs all over the budget. We need to find some savings in certain places and particular publicity in certain, somewhere where we can look. We work with our communications team works with I don't know what they're exactly called, but like a kind of like a broker for print jobs. So they'll kind of find printers locally who will be able to do the work that we want and we're kind of sure the quality that we need, but also kind of competitive pricing. So a couple of years ago, we were faced with a hike in supplies, the printing costs, and the broker helped us find an adjustment to the paper that we use. It's kind of like a slightly different paper type, and it saved us a lot of money. So hopefully we'll find some ways to not sacrifice the entire newsletter, of course, but find ways to reduce costs while maintaining kind of a good newsletter that can share a lot of information.
I do think the quality of the newsletter is important because many people may not go online necessarily for resources. So I think that's important that we aren't sacrificing the quality, but just maybe making sure that we're continuing to quote and make sure we're getting the best cost possible on it.
Yeah,
It's usually when you look at everything aside from, like the things that we know are big ticket things like, like insurance and all of that. This one always seems to pop out to me as a.
it's not an insignificant number for sure.
Yeah.
It is. And part of the issue honestly is, it's a good problem to have, is that we do so much programming now compared to kind of, years past, that it's hard to fit all of that in a certain number of pages. So expand the number of pages, and we're also kind of doing more content, adding more content that's not just program listings, but kind of like the call outs for the award, for the advisory team, or the board member profiles, or kind of a special, the art recently, that was featured in the newsletter recently. So we're doing more of a mix of that. So it's leading to just additional pages. So but we'll look at it. Have to.
And then I only had one more question on the expense. So, under the research and learning, we have a Rails expense for 14,000. So could you just explain exactly, what exactly that is?
Of course, yeah. Whenever you see something that says Rails, which is our regional consortium or system, I should say, under research and learning, it means that we're getting special pricing through our local system, and it's the invoicing is run through Rails. But these two items that make up the total there are for a database package, our online resources, like consumer reports, and Novelist Plus, which is an upgrade to our the content in our catalog, and then and is Novelist also a separate database as well, so people can use that for getting information about potential books that they want to read and that kind of thing, the reviews for books, and then another part of that cost is for Press Reader, which includes like newspapers and magazines online. So these are, and just a reminder again for the research and learning lines, usually for these subscriptions are annual subscriptions, so it's kind of like one big number that is once a year for a particular resource. Yeah, sure, of course.
Looking at the technology network
Yes.
of 6250, can you talk about the Abt Electronics?
Yeah, yes,
Yeah.
okay. Oh, we purchased, we upgraded some equipment for our photographer and videographer, the Nikon cameras that we use.
Okay.
So it's just kind of, we haven't upgraded our cameras and lenses in a while, so we really wanted to upgrade those.
Okay. Yeah. And then I noticed that there's for Pocket Talk
Yes,
for $385. Are we purchasing more of those?
I
or is
believe that was an additional purchase, not replacement or anything. I don't think that they were broken or anything.
Right, I believe it was an additional one to take out for every.
Okay. So those are the translations.
Yeah, so are we finding that they're getting good use then? Is that-
Yes.
For the public service desk, so everything I've heard is positive.
Are we taking those out like when we're doing the community events
I
as
think
well?
that's
That's
the
the
idea
reason
for
for
the.
getting another
additional
one.
Okay,
Yeah, so that they're not taking it away from the kids' desk or the desk.
great. Oh, that's great news.
I thought it was pretty cool, like when I went downstairs and I tried one out with,
Oh, you did?
yes, I was curious how the transition.
Good,
Yeah,
good.
it was great.
Did you do French or?
I did. Feel so.
Leo, any questions or? Are we ready to vote on it then? So do I hear a motion to approve the July 2025 disbursement report?
So moved.
Seconded.
This is an individual vote. Put a number on this.
No,
Okay.
no. Just call up.
So Mary,
Yes.
Leah,
Yes.
Gula,
Yes.
and I vote yes, so the motion passes 4-0. Next item on the agenda is the approval of a hot water pump replacement project, pay app number 1 on page 22. Are there any questions or comments on that?
Just as a reminder, this is a fairly large HVAC project that we're working on with a contractor, for mechanical services. And so this was approved by the board earlier in the year, and we're working on the project now. So you'll see additional pay apps until we finish the project.
My only question is how is it going and are we on track to stay on schedule?
Yeah, so far so good. They, the stuff has been ordered. They're looking at early fall, so we're still on their projected targets.
I think this pay app is for the actual hardware and
Okay.
equipment.
And they've already had, the electrician has come, and so they're doing some pre-work before they actually have the things to install.
I just wasn't sure with like supply chain things happening now, you order something, if there's going to be any issues, but it doesn't sound like it. Yes, okay,
But no signs.
Yeah, they've not reported any problems.
great.
Any other questions or comments on that? Okay, do I hear a motion to approve payment of the hot water pump replacement project, pay app number 1, for a total cost of $54,783?
Second,
Mary,
yes.
Leah,
Yes.
I say yes. Lula?
Yes.
Want to give you a second? Okay, motion passes 4-0.
Yes, because
Are you okay?
Yeah, maybe I'll- kitchen.
Next item on the agenda is the approval of the consent agenda from pages 25 through 33. Pages 33.
Page numbers. I love that you're doing the
Yeah, it's easier.
Yeah. Any questions on the budget? I'm just gonna scroll through these pages. Any questions or comments on the budget?
The only comment I'll make is, it was really weird, at least for me, I got a notice from my mortgage holder that our property tax bill had been delayed. I don't know if anyone else got something similar. And then 2 days later, it said, oopsie, we didn't mean to send that. So I was just curious what you've heard about property tax, like timing and receiving payments.
I'm pretty sure that the collections will be delayed this year. I just
Okay.
don't know when we expect to receive.
I never gotten something like that from my mortgage lender since I lived here. So I thought that was kind of really odd.
You didn't get one like that a couple of years ago. There was a delay a couple of years ago because of that,
Don't
the
remember.
software technology issue.
Maybe there was, I don't recall, but with this one, I just remember seeing, I was like, oh, that was, and it was just weird that it said there's a delay and then it said, no, that was sent in error. So I just thought it was kind of confusing. But I think it's, you're nodding to it, you got something.
So the second email was, the date was incorrect, but I think there's still gonna be a delay.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they probably were premature in telling me the exact date, but
Okay,
I'm Allison, and I'm pretty confident there will be a delay, but it's been unclear so far from just looking online for information, when exactly the due date will, the dates will be. So the good news is, and just to kind of step back for put this in context about how it affects us, when the fall tax collections are delayed, then we'll dip into our general operating fund balance. That's why it's important to keep that healthy, so that if there's a delay in fall taxes, and we don't have to worry about paying the bills for the months that kind of follow. So whereas if libraries or other government units don't have that cushion, then they need to scramble to like find someone to loan money to them or something like that. So we'll make different arrangements with the municipality or whatever. So when we experienced this a couple of years ago, we were fine. We didn't have to. We just drew from our general operating fund accounts, but then when the money started coming in, I think it was like December of that year, we just replenished our kind of balance. So no worries quite yet, but if there's a really long delay, then past the new year, which I don't expect, then we would start to calculate how we would address it. But I mean, we also have the reserve fund, so kind of have the rainy day kind of fund as well. So.
And can you just talk about how much we have in our policy for our reserve fund, just?
So we require, our finance policy states that we have to keep 3 million minimum at any given point. So right now we have 6.4 million. So that will be decreased. I know we'll talk about that later, but that will be decreased when we tackle the hot water pump pay apps, and the first floor window replacement pay apps. And so over the next 2 years, that will go down, but right now we're in a very healthy position.
So if there was any sort of delay, we're still. in a
We're
good place
definitely fine.
financially.
Yeah, there's no concern whatsoever. And I think Cook County will have a delay of I guess, a very short period, like a month or two, or at most 3, because all the schools, all the libraries, all the villages, we're all relying on those collections, right? So it can't be delayed much longer than, hopefully, that's but I'm not running the county, so.
I'm looking at this from a financial perspective, so if our total expenses per month, and this is just, right now, it's 1.3 million, so if we're thinking about however many months, multiplying that going forward, how much money do we expect to receive in the fall?
Usually, so what is it, 6 to 7 now?
Okay, so it's half of
Yeah. And
Or is it 55%? I forget, or is it 45%?
One is more, isn't it like,
I know.
one is
Yeah.
like 60 and one is 40 or something, it's something, I think it's split like
I
that,
don't know,
right? I don't know
Allison
which
has
is.
the numbers in front of her, but.
I'm just curious, like how many times our monthly expenses. If we're,
Do we have cover?
Yeah,
Yeah, we'll receive more money in the spring, but we still need the fall collections, of course, so. Yeah, like I said, I'm not worried right now, but I will let you all know if I have to start worrying. We're in a good place with our GOF and our reserve fund, so.
Any other questions on the financial statements? Okay, any questions or comments on the reports, which start on page 29?
I'll just say that, after last month's circulation data report, I was glad to see that there was, seemed like a blip. So,
Yeah.
so,
It went up again.
yeah, so I think that is very good.
Yeah, I mean, we have to see the long term, but
Yes.
for sure, it's always nice to see the numbers of those.
Any questions and comments about any of the event highlights? Circulation?
That I enjoyed the artist event, Petty. It was the first event I've attended at the Petty since the renovation. And it was just a really well organized event. It was really great to interact with others in the community and talk to the artists. And I really liked it a lot. So it was magical.
Thank you. Yeah, I enjoyed it too. I think everyone I talked to that night said just had a smile on their face and really enjoyed it. So.
I agree. It was a great event. So thank you to all involved for putting that
Yeah.
together. From the presentations, it was very
It was so
touching,
organized.
so
It was
moving.
very nice.
I didn't realize that I was gonna elicit so many emotions. And between that and you know, the music and the food and just being able to have that time to interact with community members and the artists, and staff members that were all a part of it was really a great event, I think, and it validated the fact of how much art means to our community,
Yes, yeah.
right? And I think that I'm looking forward to continuing to build our collection and continue to see these events take place in the name of, you know, in the spirit of art. So it was very exciting.
Where will the permanent homes be for those pieces? Obviously, I know the flower, the two pieces are staying down near the entrance. What about the other pieces? Where are those?
So the two pieces on the brick wall near the petty
Yes.
and the large piece, like kind of adjacent to that,
Yes.
are all staying right there.
Mhm.
And then social, the glitter
Yeah.
piece will stay in that location right there, because that's kind of separated from our rotating gallery space, kind of adjacent to that. But the tea bag piece will go in the reading room.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a nice blank wall right now, and I think the colors will kind of
Yes.
complement the furniture and the natural light coming in there. It'll be really nice there. And then the final piece by Pooja Pitti will be, you know, if you can imagine, picture our west help desk on the west side, left. If you're facing the desk, to the left, there's a double door to our workroom. And right next to that, there's a kind of a nice white wall there with nothing on it, kind of right before you start going into our collections. And we're planning to place that piece right there as it's permanent. So, yeah. So,
That's the blue piece, right?
yeah, and so there's a lot of traffic there because people walk past that desk and people go into the fiction collection. And so it'll be really nice. Yeah.
It was great again to see the 10 years of service. So each of our members that were on that.
Yeah, and that's actually something that on the next agenda, Denise and Laura will talk about.
Do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you.
Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is recognizing longtime staff.
I'm going to turn it over to Denise Hudick and Laura McGrath, the people who are instrumental in putting this initiative together.
Hi, so I'm Denise Hudak, I'm the collection development supervisor, and I've been working with Laura on our recognizing longtime staff project for the last year and a half. So you guys, you know, have been receiving them every month, and just to kind of note a little bit about the project. We have interviewed 53 staff members, which is about a third of our staff. It includes somebody from every department has been featured within the 10 years to 45 years working here, which is our longest time staff, which is Debbie Becker, who works in Access Services. She'll be 45 years in October. Laura has done some math for us, and so this group of staff combines over 1,100 hours of working experience. Years. Sorry. We don't work that much. Years working here at the library, and so all of the profiles that we've done are on your iPads. Thank you, Susie. Under staff info / longtime recognition. The profiles are all on our staff intranet, so everybody can see them. If you work here during the time they were shared, they're available for everyone back out. Just a little bit about this project. We started it with the idea, there was a couple pieces within the strategic plan of both like having staff recognize what their work, how it impacts the community, and also a chance for staff to learn about each other. And so Laura and I were trying to figure out how do we do that. That felt like a big task. And so we came up with these staff profile interviews, and we asked everybody the same 6 questions. So it started with like, what was your library origin story? Like, how did you come to work here? originally we asked your favorite library memory, which then we moved to your favorite parts of the job or working here at the library. We asked about a typical day. We first started with what would you be surprised to know about working here, which then we heard the card catalog a lot of times and those kind of fun things. So then we switched it to, after about, we hit the 20-year people, we switched it to what is something unexpected about working in the library, like things you didn't know about the library before you got here, positive changes you've seen. And then our last question was, how does so everyone's role and work at the library has an impact on the community, and how do you see your role as having that? And so that really was a really impactful question, because I think a lot of people here, they do their job, they think of it, and they don't always think it out loud of like how their work impacts the community. And I will say we had tears in some of these interviews. We had a lot of laughter. Yeah, but like a lot of things. And it was really, I think, so how we did it was Laura and I were in the interviews. Leah also helped us out a little bit later in the end of the project, and we had then a staff member also like kind of guide the interview and ask the questions where we took the notes. So that was kind of fun. We tried to have somebody that people were comfortable with and that would, kind of help them have it. So we went through all of these. We had such a great experience with them. We share them out to the staff after each board meeting. And so just some feedback we've received from the people who have done the interviews with us and as well as staff throughout the building. From one of our staff members that helped with the interview, she just said, she was so grateful to learn more about the people who are second family here at the library. Some people's favorite things were how people came to work here at the library, and especially for people who didn't come here thinking this was their job or their career was going to be here at the library, and how to kind of watch that evolve. And so it was really interesting because we hit a point where we're like, did everybody know somebody when they started working here? Yeah, we've had a lot of family members that have kind of come through the library. So I think people have really enjoyed hearing how people came to work at the library. Whereas, like one of our first people we interviewed literally like applied through the mail for her job, and now, have a very different experience for that. A lot of people just have shared about, like how they just don't know what other people in the library do. So we have a lot of part-time staff that maybe are here on nights and weekends and don't interact with everybody that's here during the week, and the opposite way. We featured part-time staff who are only like a Friday, Saturday staff member. And so it was really a chance for them to hear about them, and they really liked that. We would get feedback. It was always like a lot of like, this just made me smile. It made me so happy to read this. And then just kind of some deeper ones that people shared were hearing how people got their path to this library, again, whether they worked in other libraries, or people loved the stories of like, again, the card catalog, people who worked with Mary Rodmacher. Some of our staff came to Storytime here as a kid, went on the bookmobile before, and like those were things people really loved to hear about each other, and just the memories that they've had. A lot of people talked about like I'm gonna read this out. Somebody shared this with me as text, but I've recognized the shifts that have taken place here and in the field at large during the course of my professional life, from card catalogs to the introduction to the internet, and to the constant expansion. That was where I wanted to read. But identifying these qualities that make the Skokie Public Library special in these interviews, due to the skill, intelligence, and adaptability of our staff, our forward-thinking leaders, and they're willing to take risks, and the unique and loyal support of our library patrons. Also clarify the fact that our staff all share a dedication to the community through our work and feel satisfaction in seeing the big and small ways that our work affects the lives of library patrons. So those kind of things, they really warmed our hearts as we did this. Again, hearing about the people from behind the scenes, our tech services staff, our building services, our IT staff, talk about how they see their job impact the community, because you don't know that they get to see that every day. I really enjoyed our building services staff talk about like how they get to be in charge of the first impression people have walking in the building, and like how you don't necessarily think about that, but yeah, how if like trash was overflowing or the bushes weren't clean, that kind of stuff, like how much that would make you want to turn away from the library. And some people really could walk in and say how they saw their impact, and other people, it took time, like through the interview, to kind of talk it out with them, but I think everybody left really being able to share that. And that they were able to see it as much as like we know we see it in everybody, but it was really nice for them to see it.
Well, I echo what Denise said, I just really wanna shout her out. She's been really the driving force behind this, and it's just been a really rewarding experience for those of us who got to be on this side of it, but also, well, I got to be on both sides.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Richard, and Amy.
Yeah.
Susie.
Yeah. And it's kind of amazing to think about just the breadth of experience and knowledge that our staff has about libraries in general, but about this library and this community, and what we can then offer to the community through that experience.
Yeah, I mean, every person we spoke with spoke about the community and the support of the community and how valuable that is, and every positive change that they talked about, involved like how the community has evolved, but like I still love the library, like the love of the library and use of the library hasn't changed, but like the way they use it is different. And as a collections person, I loved when everybody really shouted out seeing the changes in the collections. That was really nice, but yeah, everybody just had so many nice things to say about the community and the library. There's something to be said about having that common love for the library and how that links us all together, not just as a staff, but also as a community. I think no matter where we go, like we get this lovely swag, but wearing t-shirts, and we've said it before, everyone stops me and they say how much they love the Spokane Library, and it's that it's that reminder to bring everyone back and enjoy all the different resources that we have to offer. So I appreciate all that you've done to bring out this the history of the everyone's perspective or experience. So
We hope this has helped you sort of meet our staff or know a little bit more about the people that you see as you come to the library as well.
Yeah, it was part of our, as we explained the project when we sat down to do the interviews, we're like, okay, we want the board to learn more about you, and we don't want to parade everybody through here each month. Put them up on showcase for you guys, and we thought this was a great way, for you guys to learn more about them, about all of us as well as the staff getting to know more about each other.
I think it's also really nice that we've been including these in the board packets, and that's kind of, these board packets will be around forever, in terms of the archives of the library. So it really cements the history of the people who are working in the library. So
I'm actually going to ask about that because to me, this is part of the library's history, like the people who contribute to the growth and development of the library. Are there any plans to put any of these assets in the upcoming time capsule, for example?
Good question. We haven't gotten that far yet. We're focusing on opening the last one and then.
You're retired for it.
We've had some of the school districts asking. But yeah, that's a big piece of the consideration of like what could be representative of where we are, who we are now. So.
you should put them all on a floppy disk.
Yeah.
So I didn't remember if you said this at the beginning. Obviously, it's been documented here, in the writing. Were these like recorded or anything? Or
We didn't record,
Yeah.
we just took notes and then.
okay, so I was like, that would make a slam and sizzle reel.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
that's
having
what
all
I was
that put
thinking in
together.
my head
Yeah,
too,
I could
like
picture
the
like
behind
this.
the scenes.
Yes, I think it would be really.
Well, we still
cool.
have
Small mics, yeah.
less than 10 years.
Yeah, so-
all those cool folks will
Yeah.
get a chance.
Yeah, I forgot to kind of add that piece in. So this is the end of everybody that'll hit 10 years, again, 10 to 45 years. So this is kind of a break till 2026, where we'll come back and feature people who've hit 10 years. It won't be as many people, so it'll probably just be like a 1-month feature next year as we kind of catch who turns 10 years at that point. But and what is kind of fun with that, when we first started this project, when we would add some memos in about like, here's people who worked here 40 years, here's what the library was like. We were able to pull out the old board packets, which are all bound in these books and now in the archive room. And yeah, and Laura and I would be like, look at this, and this, so that's kind of cool to think about, you know, somebody 40 years from now looking through these board packets and see.
Well, thank you both. I just want to say Laura and Denise did a great job and had a lot of help. But our photographer, Audrey, like took some photos of each person, and
She
it
made
was
us all look
a
good.
nice team effort.
Yeah, it was really nice, because, you know, we have staff that aren't necessarily comfortable with, you know, they're a behind the scenes person, because they like to be a behind the scenes person, and Audrey and Paul, our videographer, helped before Audrey came on as well to, yeah, and get photos that they were comfortable with, so like, what would you like, what does your day look like, help, you know, get an action photo. Some people like Laura shared her first day of work photo instead of we put that in her profile, yeah. So yeah, and then again, I mentioned we have people who helped us with the interviews, which were 3 members of our Access staff. One is Debbie Becker, who I mentioned has been here, our longest standing employee, and Jessica Goodman, who's our digital collections librarian, you guys probably know from the art project. So she brought like a really great experience because she knows the library history probably better than anybody else. So she was able to help kind of draw out things. And, oh, do you remember this? Oh, yeah. And then Adam Sonderberg, who is our technical services supervisor, who is a little under 5 years. So we had a really good range of people who have been here long, but have worked in a variety of spaces as well.
Thank you so much. I mean, this is such a great project. And I really am interested that you were able to kind of tweak the questions to make it more almost like reflective in a different way. And I think the beauty of this is that everybody, the hope is that they took away the fact that like everybody has value, right? And that in a community, we just want to be, when we talk about like community and belonging, is to feel seen and heard. So my hope is that they can walk away feeling that, because I know that I've taken the time to read each of those and recognize that, you know, they are seen and heard and that they do have value here as a staff member. So we can't do it without each other, right? Like this is a team effort for sure. So thank you. Thank you for all your hard work. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the OCLC Alignment Group Services Fee, and that's on page 37.
So Annabelle wrote this, Annabelle Mortensen, our Director of Access Services, wrote this memo, but it's pretty straightforward. It's just an annual fee that we have to pay for information that's fed into informs our catalog, our records. Laura can say more about this if you have any more questions. But
Yeah, in a nutshell, it's something we use every minute of every day, both with cataloging and with interlibrary loan. And it's really not a service that has, you know, well, we could just get a different service. This is pretty unique to libraries. And it's just really vital to the work that we do behind the scenes to make things happen, get stuff out on the shelves and get things through interlibrary loan. So, and about me, because she's not here, is recommending the board approve payment for our group services fee at a cost of $50,949.95 for the upcoming year.
and this is this has remained pretty flat over the years. This is just a slight increase from the previous year. I think $1,000 for $1,000.
Yeah. It's been very steady.
And this is like the flat fee that they have for all libraries, or
The
is it
fee
depending on the
It's
size?
very complicated as to how different libraries, how much we pay, but it has a little bit to do with size, how many records we're using and things like that, but there's a formula they plug in to determine what each library is contributing to this group purchase of the service.
Any questions or comments about this? No. Do I hear a motion to approve the OCLC annual service fee for a total cost of $50,949.95?
Second.
Individual vote on this, Leah?
Yes.
Hula?
Yes.
Mary?
Yes.
Yes, from me, so the motion passes 4-0. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is the update of anticipated capital projects on page 39.
So this is, as my memo states, something that we provide the board at least. Actually, it's been more than twice a year, to be honest, but at least at a bare minimum twice a year. Usually in conjunction with the tax levy discussion and then later on in the around February, March, April, when the board is starting to think about the operating budget decision. So it's just to give the board a projection of not only this fiscal remaining fiscal year, but also the next fiscal year of what we anticipate tackling in terms of significant larger projects. It might not include every little, building services related repair or things like that, but these are kind of capital improvement projects, right? Significantly large projects. So as you can see, in the remaining of this year, we have things that we've already approved. The first floor windows, the hot water pumps, and isolation valves. Let's see, the computer commons, computers are already ordered, and the aggregate concrete repairs were already completed on the west side. So it includes a lot of things that you've already seen and you're already aware of, but then there are a few other things that we're still gathering information for, getting quotes, potentially going up to bid for larger projects. And then next year, we only have a handful of items that we know we probably will see. And the biggest one, obviously, is air handling units. On the second floor, we have 2 air handling units that need to be, the components need to be replaced and or repaired. So it's a significant project. It's on our radar, and we're already starting to work with consultants to assess what needs to be done to design a project. But those numbers are less concrete. So Laura and I, along with building services manager Vinny, Tango Vinny, and also IT manager Mark Hadsey, we're all kind of informing this projection. But a lot of it is based on the capital asset study that we've already seen from BTC. So back in November, that capital asset study informs what we're projecting each year. So, yeah. Laura, did you want to add anything about this? Or?
No, just to note that the study of the air handling units is already underway. We're hoping for a report within the next month or so from them. So hopefully we'll have slightly more numbers. It's really hard to project that far out. And the study was designed to give us some options potentially of refurbish or maybe you need new ones. So we're not quite sure what that's going to involve yet. But anyway.
Is that a project that like services can continue, right? We don't just shut anything down.
We're certainly hoping, yeah. Is there a potential for, early closure one day or late opening or one day closure? Possibly, like it's a very complicated project where it's difficult to get in back there in the mechanical room. So depending on the overall design of the project, it might require some scheduling changes, but Laura and Vinny are talking with our consultant and doing our best to make sure that
Minimize.
minimize disruption.
It's the same consultant we worked with on the chiller project, and we're also doing the hot water pumps with. So they're very aware that every day we need to work around it as much as humanly possible.
Right. That's always the goal with construction projects, is to minimize disruption to public services.
Because it's 7 figures, is this normally bid out?
So
Because it's a 7-figure capital project, is it normally bid out to say?
it has to be by law, yeah.
Okay.
We have to bid this out. Anything over 25,000 will bid out. I shouldn't say anything because there are certain categories of purchasing and work that we're not required to, but for this type of thing, it is definitely something we would bid.
I guess, how is it bid out? It's too much of a.
No, in a nutshell, just a long story short, we have like bid documents that include instructions on how a contractor can submit their bids, like the addresses that they should send it to, the deadline, et cetera. And then they have spec sheets usually, so like the design, so explaining exactly what the specifications are. And then contractors see that when it's posted and published, or if we're working with a group like SMC or construction management team, they'll solicit bids from contractors that they know of, or get the word out essentially, and then it's a blind bid. So when people submit, there's a deadline, and then there's a bid opening meeting where we literally open the envelopes that are sealed. So
I was looking back at the mechanical services, one of the items, and accessories, and the name of the company that's listed there is the name of the company. Should be a client.
oh,
Oh,
okay, interesting.
and I handle their account very,
You recognize that, yeah.
very large company. So I was just wondering how that all came about.
Yeah, it's all kind of
I know.
a big process,
I'm
yeah,
just saying.
yeah. And all, we post our requests for bids publicly on our website as well. So if you go to our about page, there's a request for proposals. And actually you could, it's interesting because if you want to look back at our request for proposals, even for the renovation project back in 2019, 20, like 21, you'll see all the documentation there. Yeah, so including like the furniture list. Yeah,
I
it's kind
found
of,
it interesting.
yeah, I read it, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, sure.
Question, just regarding the Sprinter van, I guess when I look at a
Mhm.
lot of these line items, you replace the windows
Mhm.
and you might have some maintenance along the way, but you kind of, it's a one and done type thing, sort of. And then when you think about the Sprinter van, that's got a lot of like added ongoing expenses, right? Like gas, insurance, just overall maintenance. So when I look at the $175,000 estimate, I'm assuming that is just the cost to procure and then customize the van, right?
Yes.
Okay, in terms of like the overall budget, then like going forward, if we were to do this project, we've been working on estimates of what would be extra added cost to the overall annual
Yeah,
budget. that would
that's a great
cost.
question. There will definitely be some additional costs under auto maintenance, the budget line. But because we imagine this vehicle being a new vehicle, so obviously we haven't received it yet, or we haven't purchased anything yet, but the idea is to purchase a brand new vehicle that's customized. So, and for many years, it should just be like, standard oil changes and regular maintenance. This isn't as complex of a vehicle as a bookmobile with its generator and all the electrical systems and everything. The Sprinter van is really like the vans that anyone could buy, an awful lot. So it's just like another car or van that hopefully, in the early years, there's not a lot of maintenance and repair work, but for sure, like, and there will be low mileage obviously because it's going to be used locally. So the idea is that, this is a low cost, low maintenance vehicle. So, yeah.
And what is the purpose again for this one?
So the Sprinter van, we're hoping to really enhance our ability to provide services and do outreach in the community. So the bookmobile, because of its size, and also because of its requirement to have a CDL driver behind the wheel, we're limited in terms of where we can go, where we can fit, how often we can get out, to block parties and that kind of thing. So the Sprinter van is a smaller vehicle, like you can imagine some of the, I think, you know what I'm talking about, like it's an enhanced kind of taller.
It's a good idea because you
Yeah.
can have swag and anything
Right,
else in
right.
there, and it's just like an easier way to move around.
But it will be lined with collections as well, so people can fit into the van as well, and it'll have a wheelchair lift. So we're trying to make it more accessible, both on the van itself, but also getting out into places where the bookmobile can't fit. And also it's easier to provide staffing for that vehicle because anyone with a regular driver's license should be able to drive it. Although that's not the plan, obviously, but the idea is that it will just be overall easier to operate. And this is not to say that we have any plans whatsoever. I want to make that clear of increasing the bookmobiles use or getting rid of the bookmobile at all. I think people love the bookmobile, so this would be a complement to our mobile services efforts.
Essentially, it's gonna basically be a mini bookmobile.
Yeah, it's a little baby bookmobile.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Cute.
Yes, exactly, and you know,
approve.
we're trying to wrap it, we'll try to wrap it and have it the same family as the book bike,
Yeah.
the Spider-Man and the,
So cute.
yeah, exactly, so that's the idea.
Can you talk a little bit about the electrical work in FY '27?
Yeah, I really don't know as much about this one because we haven't done the work yet to investigate just what is needed. But it was mentioned in our capital asset study of doing a study to examine which parts of our electrical panels and all our electrical work that we might need to upgrade. So, Laura, do you want to say any more about that? Or?
Just that, some of our electrical pieces are pretty old because the building was kind of patchwork. We have things in a lot of different locations and some of them are much older than others. So we really need to do the study first to figure out exactly what we're gonna be addressing. So that the numbers here are kind of an estimate of, if we did all the work that they mentioned in the capital asset study, that's approximately that amount, but we don't actually know that that's exactly what it would be.
Okay,
Um,
so this is maybe like the high estimate, I would say, possibly.
I
Both.
mean, based on the numbers in this study, but they did some looking at the systems, obviously, to generate their report. They didn't do the kind of arc flash study that we're talking about, that
Sure.
really gets in there to like, this wire needs to,
Yeah,
or this.
the
panel
exact
box
one that
gets-
needs to get
Yeah, yeah.
But you're right in the sense that when our consultants created the capital asset study, their overall mindset is to approach it with a conservative numbers approach. So they're not trying to surprise us with a low number.
Mhm.
And they do the opposite, right? Like kind of give us a conservative estimate so that hopefully the actual numbers in terms of the work that might be reduced, it comes in lower, right?
Right.
So,
Do they take into account the changing in how things are priced year after
Inflation?
year?
Yeah. Yeah, they do, yeah. They have a version of their spreadsheet where that's not taken into account, but we don't use that version. We use a version where
Yeah.
they,
Makes sense.
yeah,
They
account
adjust
for inflation.
Inflation each year, yeah.
Yeah, labor and supplies.
Could you also talk about furniture?
Yeah, of course. So, you know, it's been 5 years now, if you can believe it, since the first parts of the renovation, the large renovation for public spaces was completed. So most of our furniture is doing great, but it's, you know, like our tables or chairs, everything. We are looking at a service model change in our 2 rooms in the youth area, our activity room and the food box, which is our staff learning lab, STEAM learning lab. And so Amy and her team are imagining that there might be, along with those changes, some potential furniture needs. So we don't know what those are yet, and we haven't spec'd it out or anything like that or designed it, but we're just kind of putting a placeholder for thinking that this is probably gonna be coming up in the next fiscal year. So
Do you think that's something that will happen every, let's say, 5 years?
it's possible, but there's nothing immediate on our radar right now. I think we're definitely hoping that the furniture that we purchased for the renovation will last for many years, but
Mhm.
it's possible. I mean, it really depends on the wear and tear and how people treat the furniture. And so over the past 5 years, we have had certain, like, you know, people leaning back on certain chairs and like breaking a leg or on the chair.
Especially
I
in the
mean,
kids area.
well, not, actually, it's more in the. If I'm being honest, you know, like the study rooms and that.
Wow.
But if you think about the fact that those study room chairs, 12 hours a day, there's someone sitting in them 7 days, well, a little less on weekends, but
Right.
75 hours a week, somebody's sitting in those chairs.
Mhm.
So it's a lot of use, way more than your household chairs.
And way more than the average library, honestly. Our library in Cape Town and the volume of the number of people just constantly in the building is just not what you typically see in a quieter suburban library. So yeah, it's possible. we'll definitely consider, what needs to be replaced year to year and kind of factor that into the budget. But we'll do it kind of hopefully not so that all of it has to be done at once, because that's a really hefty price. So just kind of be thoughtfully added each year.
And when we think about even just a couple of tables that I think we approved of, with Amy, right, a couple of months ago, and just the cost of those to
Yeah, the
customize
arcade,
it,
yeah,
and,
tables.
right, and the cost per use, I think, is really well worth it. When we
Yes.
think about how it can, how much furniture plays into the use of a space,
Right.
right? So,
That's why we really, I'm glad you brought that up, because we really focus on buying sturdy, durable furniture that can be cleaned properly, you know, so that's kind of what, and that looks good, right, so it's kind of, those are criteria.
and those are not cheap.
Those
They
are
have like all those
cheap, yeah.
criteria are not cheap.
It's not the average furniture that you might buy like IKEA or whatever, you know, like we need it to be long lasting, so. And we pay up front for that, but the overall, the long-term costs are reduced because we do that.
Carpeting.
Oh, touchy subject.
Sorry, I just think
Have
like
you been
I'm
listening to our
familiar-
conversation?
No, I'm familiar with furniture. I mean, I worked in the furniture industry for a
Yes,
while, so
right.
I'm familiar with like textiles
The
and you know, like
rub
rub
count,
count
yeah.
and like all of that. But in terms of like carpeting, I feel like everyone walks on it. It's very high traffic. So what?
So
I don't know. Is there a line item for carpeting? Does that need to be?
there is some money set aside in the capital asset plan for flooring, but in our opinion, probably not enough. And so our carpet is in great shape. We get it cleaned regularly throughout the year. It's like a program of cleaning that we need, a building services manager works with the contractor to do. And obviously our team does a great job of keeping everything clean and replacing carpet tiles that are stained to the point where it can't be cleaned. But yeah, you're right. I mean, there are thousands of people, the gate count is a couple thousand every day. So there's many types of shoes and materials and debris walking all over our carpet. We do have a walk-off carpet mats in the entrances that helps. But at some point, you know, what I've always heard is like a 7-year lifespan for carpet, but we're trying to get a little bit more life out of that. But there are certain zones, like the central path from the east to the west, that get walked on more than, like, say, this room, right? So this room we probably won't need to replace for many, many years, but that main path through the corridor, the central part of the library, we probably will need to think about cleaning. It's just more about not the condition of it, but it's the appearance of it, because it is a lighter gray tone, and so although we're replacing tiles, what happens is that the carpet that is worn down and discolored with 5 years of use, next to the new carpet tile that's placed, it looks like patchwork. So so we're trying to consider that, and we're hopefully going to get some more life out of our carpet, but a few years down the line here, we're going to have to think about at least addressing that main corridor. So it's not gonna be like the cost of the carpet from our renovation project, of course, but where we replace everything new, but there will be substantial like pieces that we'll have to address over the years. But right now, we still have attic stock. We're still replacing carpet tile as needed, so it's not really noticeable to most patrons, but Laura and I notice it for sure, and so I guess it's also how much does it bother us, you know, when we want to, how much we'll prioritize it and bring it to the board. But for now, we're okay.
I haven't noticed anything, if
Good.
that makes you.
I'm sorry, I mentioned it.
No,
I
I brought
should
it
have
up.
just said it, everything's fine.
No, I brought it up because I was just curious, because when I think of wear and tear, it's just curious to me that there's furniture, but to me, the carpet would more likely have more immediate wear and tear. So it was just,
The
curiosity.
carpet is definitely on our minds a lot.
This is also why we can put carpet into our, the harder surface. Very clean, longer.
And also we can do more programs like dance programs or like kind of exercise programs. We're doing a seal coating project. This is probably too much information. information, but since you brought it up, you know, we're doing a seal coating project, in 2 weeks, in about 10 days, we'll have a seal coating for the, and restriping for our driveways and, parking lot. And the last time we did it, 3 years ago, some people started walking on the freshly oiled, driveways and then walked into our recently renovated building. And so we ended up actually, you might remember, I emailed the board saying, I made a decision to close the library until 3 p.m. that day so that we wouldn't have just our entire carpeting ruined. So Laura, Vinny and I are talking right now about what to do for, our upcoming seal coating project. You know, do we hand out like the little shoe covers?
Is that gonna be just on the west side?
West parking lot, south driveway, and east driveway. So all around the building.
Does that include like where you turn out of, because I noticed that is very faded, like the ground markings.
Turn out there.
Onto
When you.
Overton.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, all the striping.
Okay,
Yes.
I noticed that actually for last word, I had made a mental note actually.
Oh.
Yeah, because I remember, oh, wow, this looks really faded, so.
We're
Yeah,
supposed,
that's a big part.
it needs seal coating and then, fresh striping. So it's a 2-day
I'm just
project.
thinking about like, you know, if you could do it where you close just one entrance and then the other entrance. would be
That's
open.
usually what we've done in the past, but it increases costs too, because
Substantially.
the number of days that the equipment needs to be here is double. So it's kind of a trade-off, you know, so we'll figure out a solution, but we'll definitely do it to protect the carpet. Protect the carpet at all costs. you know,
Yes.
so.
Oh, yeah, all costs. But within, you know.
Yeah, within
Fairly
reason,
good
within
reason.
reason.
I'm glad we talked about this, because mentioning that, like, 4 years ago, we were looking at different schools for our son.
Mhm.
And I remember walking to this, the library of the school. Like right as soon as you walk in, there was this massive stain that was probably like here. It was dark. It just looked like.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest turn on for me. Like if they don't have pride in like maintaining, you know, the room, then what else is working about it? So I don't know, for me, it's
True, it's visible usually, you know, if a big stain. Yeah, I can see that. It's so hard to control with a public building though, with people, everyone holding their coffee.
right.
Even the water, if you get too much water spilled. because
And it was like trying to clean.
We're all self-conscious.
I'm like, oh my gosh, where's my coaster?
No. Remember I said wipeable, cleanable surfaces.
Yes,
so,
yes.
yeah.
But I was really conscious of it.
No, you're good, you're good.
Anyway, sorry.
So anyway, that's what we're presenting here is, there's no, approval or action item here, it's just more FYI, so.
And the seal coating and striping is listed on this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right there, it's
So,
13,000.
Okay, any other questions or comments on this before we move on? Great, thank you so much for that. Next item on the agenda is the discussion of the 2025 tax levy. We're not going to vote on anything today. We're just going to, you know, Richard, I'm going to ask if you could just kind of review that and go through it because it is very complex.
Mhm.
And then we can talk about it and then something for us to think about. It'll be on the agenda for next month for
Right.
vote.
Right.
Okay, and that starts on page 41.
Thank you. Yeah, as you all know, this is one of the biggest decisions of the board each year, the annual tax levy decision. So I tried to summarize all the pertinent information in the memo, but I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. If I don't have the answers, Allison and I will go back to the drawing board and get the additional information for your consideration for next month. But I want to thank Allison, first of all, for being so helpful with the preparation of all this and kind of helping me analyze all this information. Laura was involved as well. So thank you to Allison and Laura. So last year, the board approved a 2% increase on the tax levy. That followed, prior to that, there were some years of a flat increase, so a 0% increase. So I won't go back in history and kind of explain all of that, but there were a number of factors, there was COVID and the renovation projects, and so there were good, legitimate reasons why the board was, as I understood it, approving the flat increase levies. But last year, the board approved the 2% increase. So with our current GOF and our general operating fund and reserve balances, like I was saying earlier, we're in a healthy state today and like tomorrow, but moving forward as we project, all the work that we're gonna do this year and all the work that we're gonna do next year, and then factoring in how that will deplete our reserve fund a little bit, right? And could bring us down to kind of slightly uncomfortable levels, right? Like, I know $3 million is a lot of money, but for a library this size, when you're talking about a roofing project alone, few years ago cost $2.3 million. So it really, in the grand scheme of things, we need to have a strong reserve fund just to make sure that we can tackle any unforeseen issues in the building. That's starting to concern me a little bit if we don't continue to increase our levy. The other factor that I want to point out is, as I mentioned in the memo, is we're really being faced now with rising costs in certain areas. So I don't think this is a surprise to anyone. Health insurance costs for the library to provide the coverage for the bulk of the premiums for eligible employees that's rising. And the earliest projections that I have from our insurance pool, LIMIC, is that will go up again for calendar year 2026. I don't yet have the exact numbers on that. I actually have a meeting next week. I'm on the rec board, so I'll have a meeting next week where I'll learn the final numbers on that, and the board will make a decision at that point. But the LIMIC board, I mean. But that's a real big concern because those insurance costs have been rising over the past 10 years, and we're projected to spend close to possibly like 1.4 million just on our portion of the employer portion of the insurance premiums, right? So that's a big one. Our business insurance, which is like cyber, property, liability, all that has been okay, but that is not going down, right? We don't anticipate with this insurance market that's going to start declining, so that's going to continue to rise. And then, of course, the biggest chunk of our budget is for salaries and wages, and with inflation and the cost of living going up, the board has generously approved increases for our staff every year, right? So that, if it continues to do that, which I expect it will consider it, that even like a 3% increase really increases our overall salary budget by quite a bit. So all those factors, if you factor all of that into our projected budget, we're only going to be faced with tighter and tighter budgets moving forward. And what that means is that when we have tighter budgets, even with carefully managed spending, even if we don't spend even if we spend within our budget for the next few years, which we always try to do, obviously, that means that less money will be available to transfer over to our reserve fund and kind of build back up our reserves after these big capital improvement projects. So I would worry if that was the case, right? So not worry like today, but if 5 years from now, if the library had a static revenue line with rising costs in a number of different areas, then the math is just not going to work out, and we're going to have to be in an uncomfortable position where we have our chief general operating fund and our reserve fund possibly depleted, and also possibly, if it comes to it, reductions in services, staff, etc. Again, not trying to scare anyone and not saying that that's today, but I'm thinking about 5 years from now, not today, right? So just, I want to paint the picture of what I see, what Allison and I see when we look at the numbers. I think that all that said, my I'll make a, formal recommendation obviously for September, but I really encourage the board to consider an increase in the tax levy this year. Possibly even like 4-5%. That doesn't mean that has to be that amount of increase every single year from here on out. We'll continue to manage the budget obviously and build the reserve fund to a healthy place even with after the spending that we anticipate. But hopefully we'll have enough revenue coming in to kind of make up for the budget shortfalls that we're anticipating over the next few years. To kind of steadily, but keep both the GOF and the reserve fund in a good, healthy place as we see rising costs. So hopefully that gives you a clear picture of what I'm seeing. But if you have any questions about the specific numbers or anything like that, or anything in the memo, I'm happy to share. I did. Allison did prepare the attachments as well. I just want to point out that you see the summary sheet there where it shows what a 0% levy increase would look like and what the budget shortfall would be. And then all the way up to like even what a 6% levy increase would be, which would cover our budget shortfall and actually give us a little bit more on top of that, right? So I'm not suggesting that 6% levy, but even like I said, 4 or 5% would be very helpful for us this next year. Yeah, please.
First of all, I appreciate the memo. It was really, when I first started reading it, it was crazy, but I actually understood everything that was laid out. The first question I have is, I don't recall being part of this discussion because I was, part of the year, but the 2% increase in the tax levy, did that leave the library in a deficit, surplus, or where was?
So we'll see, because we'll see how much revenue we collect this fiscal year, because that levy informs this fiscal year. So we haven't finished it.
So
Yeah, we're only a few months into it. So
I guess I was thinking from a budget perspective versus actual.
yeah, I think I don't remember. I have to look back at last year's. I'll look back at that, but we weren't anticipating taking from the GOF to make up for the budget shortfall. We did factor in a 600,000 GOF transfer to the reserve, which we already did earlier this summer. So that's already covered and took place. But yeah, from a planning perspective, I think we felt. Yeah, I mean, I don't know the exact numbers.
Sure. I'm just curious about that. Because while, last year or the current year, like the story's not gonna be the same, things change from what you budgeted, so on and so forth, but I'm just curious what, because it'll impact my decision on like the tax levy that we're thinking about. It's like, do you kind of, go for like a little bit of a deficit, a little bit of a surplus, like where, because I was thinking about the 4 or 5% as a, thinking about it for next meeting, but.
I think that the way I personally look at it is if it's helpful, if there's a budget shortfall, and first of all, I should clarify, I think I tried to do that in the memo, but just to be very clear about this, these budget projections that I'm basing all this on are not definite, right? This isn't a budget conversation, so I haven't yet met with our team to carefully plan out our budget. So it's possible that the numbers will look slightly different, but and obviously a big factor, the biggest factor will be the decision by the board on the salary and wages, right, for 26, 27 and beyond, right?
Does this all happen in an appropriate cadence? Because I'm worried, no?
I think that this.
So is it levy
hard to
that
plan,
budget?
honestly,
It's very
every
hard
year.
to plan because the levy decision comes in September.
Okay.
And then the budget planning happens in like March and April. So, and the wage and salary increase decisions happen around that time as well. A further complication this particular year is that our collective bargaining agreement will run out at the end of April, so sometime between now and April, end of April, we'll enter presumably negotiations with our bargaining unit, which will determine some unknown figures and percentage. Yeah, it is.
That is a lot.
And nothing lines up, it's not like it's a waterfall chart, you know, we go from one thing to the next.
Well,
It doesn't.
That's ideal, right? But I mean,
That's
how
not
do we plan?
the real world, yeah, with the way it works for us, you know, so that's why I'm trying to paint a picture. But knowing that the budget numbers aren't, concrete. But I was gonna say, back to what my main point was gonna be, if we do project a budget shortfall and we experience that during the year, then what we would do is, we would probably draw from our general operating fund balance. And I mentioned in our memo that when we project out our cash flow from the general operating fund through the end of February of 2026, we use that mark because that's the time where we would have spent most of our fall tax money. And it's right before we get our spring money. So it's like the lowest point in the count on the fiscal year of where our general operating fund would be the lowest balance. And when we do that balance and when those numbers and when that cash flow analysis was completed, we're projecting to be around 37% of our operating budget at that lowest point. The recommendation by our municipal finance advisor is to be at 40% if possible. That's the recommendation. It's not like a law or rule or anything, but that's what our internal, yeah, exactly. That's what we hope. So 37, I'm very happy with actually. Like it's a solid, close enough, but the more we draw from our GLF to make up for budget shortfalls over the next several years, the lower and lower that percentile will get at February of each year. And if we get really low, then we're getting ourselves into dangerous territory because if there's a delay in tax revenue, like we're expecting this year, we won't necessarily have enough to cover us for, say, 3-4 months, right? We might have enough for 1 month or something. Yeah, exactly. And then we're starting to get to the point where we have to drop in the reserve fund, which is already depleted, right? So it's kind of like all connected in a way, intertwined. But
Maybe you could, for the next meeting, provide kind of like that schedule of events, so I could mentally.
yeah, sure.
How we're
Timeline.
going to
Yeah. I can
discuss things as they come along.
definitely do that. Yeah, yeah. The two markers are obviously the tax levy decision and the budget, but I'll provide a more detailed,
Like you said,
month.
the collective bargaining, I mean, there's a whole
Right.
slew of things happening.
Yeah.
And then my other question, hopefully it's a quick one, is what percentage of health insurance premiums does?
The library pay. It depends on the plan, so it's not 1% across the board, but some plans, I think it's like 8%, 85%. I think there's one plan that's 9-10, you know, so it really depends on the HMO, the HPO, and the HSA deductible plans. So,
Thank you.
And just to give some context from previous years, so we approved the 2% tax levy from last year. And then prior to that, we hadn't approved any, it was 0%, all the way back until 2017,
Right.
right? And that was when it was approved for 1.5% in 2017. So it's been quite a number of years where we haven't had to request a tax levy increase at all. So just to give you some of that background information. And then as you're kind of thinking through this over the next, over the course of the next month, if you go back into the board packets, for example, Richard pulled up some really great helpful information from August of 2024. So if you want to go through some of that, just to kind of see what, you don't need to go through all of that.
Yeah.
He's already documented all of that in the board packet.
That's a good
But
point.
that would be a great place to just kind of give you a better understanding, context-wise. There's also kind of a breakdown of what it would cost per household when you request for a tax levy. So just
That's
giving you
great.
some of that information on that. as far as helping you kind of craft an idea of what percentage. And then when we go through for next month, we'll go through and actually throw out some numbers about percentage wise of what, whether we decide to or not, from 0 to whatever we decide as a board. And then we'll vote on whatever percentage that is. And then someone can make a motion to throw out another number if you want to. I'm just going through this because there was a little bit of a confusion from last time, I believe. So just so looking ahead, that's kind of how it will present itself.
Someone can make a motion, but if it's not, and seconding it, the board votes on it and it's not passed, then someone else has to make another motion.
For another
Right.
percentage or however we decide.
But then also the past, it's possible also that the board has, through the discussion, seen consensus, on a percentile, and that's fine too, it doesn't have to go through multiple motions, but, yeah. Your earlier question about the budget projection and, the shortfall projection will be answered in what Michelle just mentioned, like the August, I'll look at the August and September memos, and the attachments, so. And if you need more assistance looking at it, just let me know.
No, it's good. I'll find it.
I just have a question slash comment, just to make sure I understand too, and that everyone else does too. So when you have a 0% tax levy, essentially year over year, then the amount that you're requesting is basically the same, it's unchanged. But then when you do the 2%, now going forward to the next year, we now have that new amount. So any request you do on top of that will be building off of that previous amount. So it's almost like a nice little snowball that you can kind of, year over year, I
Yes.
guess is what I'm saying.
Right.
So
And
I think it's something to think about rather than doing a super large increase. Another strategy could be to do gradual year over year. So that way, if we are controlling expenses on one end, helping to keep the budget as tight as possible, and on the other end, doing small incremental increases year over year, you can kind of meet somewhere in the middle to help eliminate a deficit over time. And then you have that baseline of capital coming in versus suddenly having to do an urgent, very high tax levy later versus gradually building it over time.
that's exactly right. And that's my hope too, is that that's the practice of our organization, that we follow that so that, like, for instance, I know other libraries and government units that if they're trying to do a renovation project or a repair, they have to spike their tax levy the prior years, probably not just 1 year, but several years, to build up the money to do that, right? So we haven't had to do that. And we've paid for the renovation through a bond issuance through the village, and our third floor renovation, we paid completely out of our reserves. So that's what I would like to continue, is for the, I don't expect a renovation anytime soon. Obviously, we just did it, but like 15 years from now, 10, 15 years from now, there might be work that's needed in the building. And hopefully today and the next few years, the board's decisions and practices will set up the next generation of the board and the administrators to have what we had, right? Which is a healthy reserve and a GLF. So, and when you keep doing that, you are gaining compounding kind of gains,
Love
right?
that kicker.
I know, right?
Yes.
And when you don't do it, you're losing the potential of that compounding revenue. So that's just something to keep in mind. It's never just a flat, right? It's actually like a loss, right? So,
Yeah, it's kind of like when inflation goes up, if you don't continue
Right.
to also grow at the same time. At least for me, I think it's a better financial strategy to think about small gradual increases that keep in line with inflation versus not doing something and then having the negative potential result of having to suddenly have a very large expense and not having the money to cover.
Right. We never want to get to the point where we're spiking it to like a 9-10% levy increase, right? Like if we stay kind of moderate, that will provide us stability. I totally agree.
I looked it up. I looked up the August packet
Okay.
last year, and 5%, the impact of potential tax levy increase of 5%, which equated to an increase of $673,000. the average increase per household was 28. So I would say what would be our, that was 700,000.
Yeah,
It was like the upper.
I actually did it myself too for this discussion, so if you're- I'll send this out as a note since were missing some members, but it gives you a look at the,
This is exactly.
yeah. I don't wanna overload the memo with everything, but
But it's nice to give
Yeah.
perspective.
yeah, we have it on hand, yeah.
I know, I mean, this is my experience, but you know, when I was going out getting signatures on the petition, the number one thing everyone's saying, you know, making sure about the budget, this and that, everyone's. You know, trying to make sure that we're being fiscally responsible.
And we definitely have that, I feel like, you know, and that's my interest too, honestly, with this whole discussion and with my comments. I see it as being fiscally responsible to also ensure that the library has what it needs for the future, not just to keep it as low as possible today, right? So it's the planning that's responsible, right? So, and I think the board has done that. I'm not trying to criticize anyone here, but I just want to ensure that we continue to think like that moving forward. So, yeah. And we don't, and I always say this, and I feel like I'm broken record, so apologies, but the library does not receive sales tax revenue, right? The library doesn't have, we don't sell it, right? We don't even sell our t-shirts or whatever,
We
so,
don't charge any fees for
right.
anything.
Right.
So we're not charging program fees, so there is no other revenue source that's substantial, like we have a couple of grants or, you know, copier money that basically pays for itself, you know, but that's not like added gain for the, so the real substantial, like 96%, 97% of our revenue is from property tax revenue, so that's why this is so important for us.
This is great.
Yeah,
But this information is great.
okay, I'm happy about it, so.
I have one more question
Sure.
about it, and I apologize if this is.
Oh, no.
Mentioned, so last year it was a 2% increase.
Mhm.
This year you mentioned a possible 4 to 5, that's kind of what you would recommend. If we knew all of these things that were gonna go on this year, kind of like, we kind of have an idea of what we might do next year, why wasn't it a higher increase last year?
I think the board, that's just what the board decided last year, you know, and like, I think what we were talking about earlier, it's just hard to, these are all kind of, a lot of this is just based on projections, right? So, the board felt comfortable, doing the 2% bit off of a 0.
Do you remember what you recommended last year?
I think I
I don't know if it's in
recommended
the
a little
packet.
higher, yeah, but again, you know, I respect the board's decision as a group, obviously, and I support the board's collective action on that, you know, so I was very happy and grateful for 2%. I think this year I'm continuing to tell the story with more clarity now, because the closer we get to the point of discomfort,
Yeah,
like the clearer it gets to me and
Yes, of
Alice
course,
and
of
Laura,
course.
where they're like, okay, now is really the time, you know, where we don't want to put this off too long, you know.
yeah, I'm sure they made a great decision last year. I'm sure it was like
Yeah.
difficult. No,
It is
I'm not
this is a difficult
trying
topic, yeah.
to sound like anything. I was
Sure,
just
sure.
curious, because I'm new to this and I
Yeah,
just
no,
kind
it's
of
a good
understanding
question.
where everyone's head was last year, if it was different than this year, so.
Yeah, I can speak a little bit
Yeah.
to that too.
Yeah.
And Mary, feel free to jump in at any point, if I'm recollecting. Because that can also happen. But you can also look it up on YouTube. So, from my recollection, it was because there was such a long period of time that we had not asked for a tax levy increase. The board, for the most part, felt very uncomfortable asking for a big number.
Kind of what I was thinking.
Yeah, so similar to that, at least I can say in the I, that, I am very hesitant to throw out a really high percentage. I would rather actually err on the more conservative side of that, if we are going to go in that direction. Because I think that it does end up having an increase on households, right? And that is something in this economy, I'm very hesitant to put more of a financial burden on taxpayers. Property taxes are expensive, right? So with all those factors in it, I am erring on the more conservative side, just right off the bat. So everybody knows how I feel about that. But that was from my understanding, that's how it had kind of played out. And then we had also had discussions about how, like, we still had like a bond that we were, paying into from the renovation. So there were a lot of like financial pieces that from what I remember, we just wanted to be more conservative on asking the public and reaching out to the public to add to that.
Thank you.
Yeah, Mary, do you wanna?
I think that
jump in?
summarizes it, and I think the other maybe 2 points I would probably bring up is we had looked at previous year budgets and what we had projected and where we had come in, and we had always ended up spending less than we had anticipated, so I think that was another decision.
Yeah.
And I'll say, it was not, no one came in and said, oh, we wanna do 2%. There was a lot of back and forth voting and discussion, and even numbers that were higher than that were suggested, put up to a vote, but there was not a majority. So this ended up coming, I feel like, after a compromise from the board. So I think there were people that probably would have wanted less than 2% and people that would have wanted more. So I feel like it kind of landed in the middle. If you feel like that's a fair assessment,
I think that's
so.
exactly what happened,
Yeah.
kind of met in the middle.
Yeah, I think so.
Thank you for explaining that.
You can check the receipts.
No.
I think
So far,
that's pretty, I think that's very
It is
accurate
Yeah,
though.
I just saved you a lot of
Yeah.
time.
I was gonna go on YouTube later. Thank you.
You can, and the public can as well. Any other comments, questions, clarifications?
I just had one question, because Lakeville is listed twice as one of those.
Oh, I'm sorry
supposed to
about
be Evanston, or is there something?
I will double check that.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry about that.
And if there's anything that comes up between now and next month, you can reach out to Richard, to me, to, of course, whatever, if there's any questions.
Yeah, of
No
course.
file.
No, fire.
Yep.
Okay, all right. We'll move on then. We're not gonna take a vote on anything tonight for that, so thank you for that rich discussion. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the revised board bylaws, and that is starting on page 46.
Okay, so as you probably recall, last month the board reviewed a revision, proposed revision. But our bylaws state that the revisions need to be at the next meeting, right, after it's introduced to the board. So that's why I'm asking the board to consider approving the revised board bylaws today. Tonight, the one comment that was left open after the last meeting was the residency requirement. So I think the earlier version said, up here, each trustee must be a resident of the village of Skokie. And I think the board a member of the board had a comment about that, inquiring because there are some people who pay taxes towards the Skokie Public Library who have the address of Evanston on their mailing address, that how would that be impacted here or unclear. And so I did go back to our attorneys and talk to them, and they said that they recommended sticking as close to the statute language as possible, and that's what we have here. And they said that if you want to be very specific and kind of legally compliant about what we're talking about by residency in the village of Skokie, it's the corporate boundaries of the village of Skokie. And that includes basically legally, fiscally, like who is paying taxes to Skokie Public Library, essentially. So by saying it this way, we're covered. I don't recommend doing the zip codes and all that, because actually that could be confusing too, when you get into that territory. So And I also obviously don't wanna, say Evanston and Scotia, because that's not true, so I think that this is, what the attorney and I, recommend, using this revised language, so that's the only change that was made from the version that you saw last month. So happy to answer any other questions you may have, or, if there are any other changes you want to see, but I recommend board approval of these revised board bylaws.
And so just so we're all clear, it's on page 47.
Yes.
Under Article 2, Board of Trustees, under Section 2, the wording is each trustee must be a resident within the corporate boundaries of the village.
Right.
So that's really that's the change that we're discussing today, unless it was something else as far as the bylaws that anybody wanted to bring up.
Just want to say thank you for always providing your red line copy, because that's what I always look at. But I always go to that first to see, so, yeah.
Okay, so do I hear a motion to approve the revised board bylaws as presented?
Seconded.
All in favor, say aye.
I,
Aye. That passes 4-0.
Thank you. We'll put this on the website and also in your board packets, or iPads.
Thank you. Okay, so next item on the agenda is for us to go into closed session pursuant to to
5
5
ILCS.
ILCS 122C1 for the discussion of the compensation or performance of a specific employee of the public body. Do I have a motion to go into closed session, please? Second?
second,
Thank you. We actually have to go into individual vote. So Mary?
yes.
Lula?
Yes.
Leah?
Yes.
Okay, I vote yes. So motion passes 4-0.